You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
You know, we say a Bond film is only as strong as its villain. And they are all pretty strong. I think there's not a single uninteresting villain in the Bond franchise. They are all highly charismatic, over the top, unforgettable. And I cannot talk about this enough. This is what separates a James Bond film from some regular by-the-numbers action film. Because Bond films are no regular by-the-number action films. They are more stylish, more beautiful looking. They have charismatic characters, especially the villains, and they are larger than life music, larger than life everything, and they are classy and stylish, and the villains are a big part of this. You know, some are stronger than others, but overall they are all very interesting, and you won't forget them. You can't forget a Bond villain. I always say, try to remember some villains of, let's say, the Mission Impossible films or other action franchises. And even if you have seen all of the films, it's not easy to do. You won't remember all of them because they simply aren't that interesting and that charismatic, like in the Bond universe, in the Bond franchise. So this is a huge part. This is what makes the film special, and I thought it would be interesting to rank the villains, starting with the Brosnan era, because I recently reviewed all of the Brosnan films. We'll do the same with the Craig era, because I also finished my reviews of that era. And first of all, I think the Brosnan era wasn't the strongest in terms of its villains. I prefer the villains of the Craig era or the classic films, especially the Connery films. In the 90s, it was an interesting time. The villains, they all got some comic book character, I think. You know, there's a lot of overacting in there, and there are a little silliness in there, and those are some of the reasons why I think the villains of the Brosnan times weren't the greatest. But still, above many of the villains from some other franchises, other action franchises. So still superior, still unforgettable, and still worth to talk about them. So I will do a top 5 list, and I will include henchmen and henchwomen. I'm not, I'm throwing all of them into one pot, so to speak. So don't make a difference between a henchman and the main villain, because they are all interesting. And I only do a top 5 because it's more interesting, I think. Only picking, the ones I really enjoy. Okay, so let's dive right into it and start with my number 5. My number 5... it's Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce. Why so low, some of you think? Because, he's a classically trained actor, I think. He was in a lot of classic films from the 50s and 60s. I remember him from Hitchcock. And I think he's charismatic and very interesting, and he's a good actor. And I love that he plays this media mogul, and they do a great job showing off the powers he has in this film. How he manipulates people and politicians, and how he's, getting people to go against each other, and even countries to go against each other, how he manipulates the news and the power that comes with that. I think they do a great job in Tomorrow Never Dies, portraying his true power and what the media can do, and that's all great. And he has a lot of he does a lot of amazing quotes from history. Like what is it? You provide the pictures and I will provide the war. That's a great quote. Or there's another one I really enjoy. The distance between insanity and genius is only measured by success. That's another great one. I think it's not from the Bond writers. Not sure who said that, but it's not from the Bond universe. But it's a great quote, and he got a lot of of them in the movie. And, the only thing I don't really enjoy about his character, not his character, the way how Jonathan Pryce portrays him, it's strangely comedic in some scenes. Strangely, that's what I was talking about earlier. The villains in the Brosnan era being a little silly, and there's a lot of overacting in there, and also with Elliot Carver, also with Jonathan Pryce's portrayal. He's a little over the top, when he does that, mimicking Michelle Yeoh's fighting style and stuff like that, and this, and I'm not sure. I don't think that was necessary. I think it perfectly fits villains like Gustav Graves, for example, because that's what they are. They are comic book figures. But Elliot Carver, I would have loved if Pryce would have portrayed him a little more serious, a little more down to earth, yeah, and that's the reason for him only being on my number 5, because I think it's a little too much, and I think the slightly comedic elements don't fit the rest of his portrayal. I think they could have done it a lot darker, but still a very enjoyable villain. So that's my number 5. My number 4, and we got a henchman here, a henchwoman, to be correct, and it's Xenia Onatopp, played by Famke Janssen. She's one of my favorite henchwomen in the whole series. She's right up there with Grace Jones in my world. That's such an insane character. You won't forget this. Watch GoldenEye if you haven't seen it. You won't forget Xenia Onatopp. She got a lot of pleasure out of killing people, and she always has an evil grin on her face when she's shooting someone, and it seems to give her sexual pleasure. She's shooting some innocent people, and she's like sexually stimulated by it. That's so insane, and crushing the guys while having sex with her legs, getting them between her legs and killing them while having sex with them. And the way Famke Janssen is acting, it's also very over the top, but in this case it perfectly fits this insane character. And the scenes she has with Bond are so entertaining. In the sauna, the whole scene where she's making out with him, but at the same time choking him, at the same time crushing him between her legs, and you are not sure what this is. Is this fun? Is this just making out, or is she really trying to kill him? And of course she's trying to kill him, but it looks so you're not sure. Is this pain or pleasure, or what is this? And of course Pierce Brosnan's reaction, throwing her to the ground, and no more foreplay. I love this scene. It's so great. I want to watch it right now. So Famke Janssen is an amazing henchwoman, amazing. She's right up there with Jaws, Oddjob, all of the classic henchmen. I think she deserves a place, right besides them. Famke Janssen did a great job. So that's my number 4. My number 3. It's Alec Trevelyan, played by Sean Bean. Why is it not my number 1? Because GoldenEye is my favorite film of the Brosnan era. It's one of my favorite Bond films in general. I love it. And I also think Sean Bean is, of course, a highly charismatic person. He looks great. I love his voice, the way he talks. Very, very classy guy. But he's only on my number 3 because he didn't get a lot of great dialogue in this film, I think. What I enjoy most about the villains is the dialogue, and especially the dialogue between the villain and Bond. Let's take from the Craig era, for example, Raul Silva and his Rats monologue. That's so great. And Sean Bean doesn't get something like that in the film. Sadly, because I think he would have deserved a lot more dialogue, to have a lot more dialogue. And yeah, also the back and forth with Bond, I think there is not a lot of interesting stuff in there. Not as interesting as in other films and with other villains, sadly. Yeah, that's a missed opportunity in my opinion. I think they should have written way more, sophisticated dialogue for him. Yeah, I think the movie lacks some of those things. Other than that, he's, as I said, a very charismatic actor. So yeah, he does a great job. He just got, not a lot to do, not enough to do. Let's put it this way. So my number 3, Sean Bean playing Alec Trevelyan. My number 2, and this will be a controversial one, I'm sure. My number 2 is Gustav Graves, played by Toby Stephens. I know, a lot of people hate this film, a lot of people hate him as a villain, and I love him. I think he is a comic book figure and he's meant to be one. He's over the top, he's not to be taken seriously, but he's very entertaining, I think. He makes me laugh, I was laughing my ass off when I first saw him, really, because he's overacting and his smirky laugh and his, and this is so entertaining. And I love that, Gustav Graves even is a character, because as we all know, there's a strange twist in this film, and also a ridiculously entertaining one, that he's in fact a Korean general who got plastic surgery and stuff and created this character of Gustav Graves, this entrepreneur, this Elon Musk style entrepreneur. And so I think it's ridiculous, of course, but it's very interesting at the same time, because this overacting, it's on purpose. So the character of Gustav Graves in the film, so we are very meta right now, is meant to be over the top British and over the top Bond. And I love when he says in the film, I modeled this disgusting Gustav Graves on you. When he tells Bond, I modeled this guy on you, the crass quips and the swagger and the defense mechanism. And, he built the role of Gustav Graves, the persona of Gustav Graves around people like Bond. And that's very interesting. I think it's ridiculous, but at the same time, I think it's very entertaining and very interesting. Yeah, I love the sword fight scene, at the Blades Club, which is in the novels not a sword fighting club, but a restaurant where M goes to play cards and have dinner. It's a nice little Easter egg, I think. And I love, how this fight gets totally out of hand, and the two egos going against each other, Bond's ego against his, and both over the top huge egos. And yeah, it's also goes very far, in terms of ridiculousness and very over the top. But I love it. I stand by this. I think Gustav Graves is a very entertaining villain, and I really enjoy him. So it's my number 2. It's got a lot of funny lines, and he has a lot of funny face expressions, and I don't like the actor a lot. Toby Stephens, didn't like him in other films, but I really enjoyed him playing Gustav Graves. So let's talk about my number 1 villain of the Brosnan era. And this may surprise some of you. It is Elektra King. Sophie Marceau playing Elektra King in The World Is Not Enough. I think, first of all, she is the first female main Bond villain. Not a henchwoman or something like this, a main villain. And I think the way she portrays this damsel in distress, this innocent girl, who got hurt, and this wounded bird, I always say, and Bond falling for this, because, that's his weakness. That's also his weakness in the Fleming novels. He always wants to save the girl, He always wants to save the wounded bird. He really enjoys himself in that role. And he falls for her because, she seems so fragile and so beautiful, innocent, and then it turns out she's in fact a very evil person with very evil plans, and she just tricked she manipulated all of the people around her, including Bond. As smart as he might be, she totally manipulated him. She manipulated M, and when she shows her real face, it's very scary and also very entertaining. When my favorite scene is the torture scene, where Bond is sitting on this torture chair and she's sitting on his lap, and she's playing this little, cat and mouse power, this game of power, and how she kisses him and at the same time chokes him with this chair. That's an amazing scene, and she got a lot of amazing scenes, a lot of very dark scenes with Renard, a lot of pretty intense scenes with Bond, and also the way Bond kills her. It's very intense. It's a very intense scene. Of course, she looks great, no doubt about it. The way she's dressed and everything, and she plays this like a classic femme fatale from the 30s or something, from the film noir era, and she brings a lot of that into the film, and I think that does the film a great favor. She's an amazing villain. She's very interesting. It was something new. They tried something new, and I always love when they do that. It was a bold move to make her the main villain, but they did it, and I think it holds up very well. So she's by far my favorite villain of the Brosnan era. So those were my top 5 Bond villains of this era. Next time I will do the same thing with the Craig films, and I think those are the more interesting villains. Again, not that the villains of the Brosnan era are somehow weak or uninteresting. They are all great, all charismatic, all unforgettable, but they are not as great as the villains in the Daniel Craig films. I think it's just my opinion. So thank you for watching. Love you, love the Bond community, and see you very soon.